Good evening. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Hold on, I'm just setting up my screen so I can see everything I need to see. How's everyone doing? Thank you for being on. Hi, Shauna. How are you? Welcome. You're bright and early. How's everyone? How are you doing? Where are you in the world? Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome back to Wind Down Wednesday. What can I tell you about this week? It's hot, 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 hot. But nice. It's nice in the morning, nice in the evening. Oh, that's what I forgot to do. I wanted to open my window a little bit so I can get some air. Hi, Lisa. How are you? Welcome, everyone. Feel free to share in the chat if you'd like where you're from, where you're checking in from. How's your week going? Hi, Spiritual Impulse. I like that name. Hi, all the way from Maryland. Hi, Patrice. Hi. Hi, everyone. I hope you all are having a good week. Had a good weekend. There's been a lot going on here, a lot of really good, cool things. We had our relocation tour last week. 4 ladies were here. 3 are still in town. One's still with me. One left earlier today. But of the 4 ladies, 3 of them were approved before they got here for their residency. 2 are completed. One's still kind of sorting some things. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. I'm going to put that on my notes just to kind of talk about the topic, which is some of the nuances and things you need to know about living abroad. Hi, welcome all the way from Nashville, Tennessee. But I wanted to share with you just kind of some of the things because I don't want people to have like a Smurfville misconception about life in Mexico. Although I do think the quality standards are maybe a little different, the quality is different, but the quality of life is better in general, cost of living, the interaction, how we feel moving through this society, for me, is definitely elevated. I feel like I'm in a community and all the things. There are challenges, okay? So I want to kind of talk about some of those things in greater depth, and I always bring you examples of my experiences and things that come up. So I want to kind of go through that. If you have questions or anything, feel free to ask them. I'm going to try my best to answer. Hi, Iona. Hola. See, you guys are, you're my amigas, right? Hola, amigas. ¿Cómo están? How are you? Checking in from Maryland. Yes, Spiritual Impulse is also checking in from Maryland, so thank you all again for coming through. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please make sure you do that. Please hit the like button for this video and any other video that you watch that you might be watching on a replay. Make sure you do that. Thank you. I appreciate you. But I wanted to add something here so that I didn't forget about it. Okay. All right, so basically, I am here in San Miguel de Allende. I wanted to share that with you before I move into my topic. I've lived in San Miguel de Allende for those who are new to my channel, possibly, or haven't really gotten the full story, that I've lived here in Mexico since 2018, so it's been almost 7 years exactly to the T. June 1st makes it May 30th makes it 7 years. I love living in Mexico. I love sharing my life with you. I love just kind of being able to share my experiences as well, so that you have, I hope, a greater understanding of what it really looks like and what it could look like. it's not all perfect and it's not all not perfect. So I think it's important to talk about these things. So let me just make this note about. Okay. So basically, that's what we're going to focus on tonight. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm going to always go through my little housekeeping, which sometimes takes a little bit of time. But I want to also always acknowledge Michelle Watson, who is our tea sponsor for Casa Elm. If you haven't heard of her brand, it's called Ingenuity, TEA. I actually remember today to bring one of her bags. So this is, I hope you can see me, but this is spiced pear. Right, can you see that? This indicates how much caffeine or no caffeine if there are no dots. One dot's pretty low, so there's a little bit of caffeine, but I'm actually drinking this. It's really, really yummy. The ingredients are white tea, highlighted with natural pear flavors, flowers, and warm spices, and it tastes exactly like that, okay? But I have it in iced tea form, so I'm not drinking wine tonight. Sometimes I am, but tonight I'm drinking tea, and it's this one. Really, really delicious, and I keep telling myself every week, oh, I should have brought it back. So I wanted to talk about this one because it's really good. My son loves it, I love it. It's really yummy warm, for example, if it's winter. And it's also nice on ice, nice on ice. So I'm gonna drop her info in the chat. And if you haven't heard of her already, this is how you can find her online, okay? Feel free to order. She does ship within the United States. And she has her website. And yes, Black owned, we like to support. Especially women-owned businesses. Hi, Michelle, welcome. So I hope you caught that I was showing your tea bags. Yeah. All right, so she's here with us tonight, and I appreciate you. All right, let's talk about some of the upcoming events. We still have some space available, I believe. I should check this before I get on here and start chatting. But in our June half-week relocation tour, we also have 2 in May. It might be, well, they're here almost. It seems like May for people traveling from the United States is not, at least in the history of Casa Elm, is not maybe the most traveled month, but it's sort of like January, it's a bit slow because it's right after Christmas. And then February, March, April, it's like rah, rah, people want to come. And then May is, I don't know if it's because of Memorial Day weekend or what, or school's getting out, but it's a little bit kind of like slower. And then we pick up again in June. So we do still have our half-week relocation tour in June. And if you're interested in general, like what we're doing and things like that, you can go to our events page. This is the June one specifically. I believe there's still 1 or 2 spaces still available. And then we're doing a summer sabbatical, but it seems right now that people are just trying to really figure out, the ones that are real serious about moving, they're really trying to figure out their options and how they can, move to Mexico. So I want to talk about that just a tad, because for those of you who follow Rashida, Stephanie with Exodus Summit, and just in general following people here in Mexico, the regularization program is 100% done, okay? There is no, if you were in Mexico before a certain date and you never left, and or, I know that they already mentioned this, like doing the caravan and coming in a certain way, like it's done, okay? So we're back to the traditional way of getting into Mexico, which is going to a consulate in the United States, a Mexican consulate in the United States, and showing your financials or whatever they tell you that you need, because you want to reach out to them first and you want to make sure you have all your information before you show up. You can't even show up without an appointment. No, they're probably not going to answer the phone if you call Not saying no one, nowhere. I'm just saying typically think of it as a government type office, and typically they're not answering those initial phone calls. So if you are close to a Mexican consulate, how do you find that? Go to Google and do a search, right? Google Mexican consulates in the United States, okay? Unless you're listening from Canada or some other country, Google that in your country, okay? And then you can even maybe fine tune it and say close to whatever state you are close to, and see if there's one in your state or somewhere close by. And from there, you want to make sure you contact them to get the information that they are looking for, because they are not all the same. They do not all operate exactly the same. There's really no underlying standardized process of how this works. So each consulate is kind of left to their own devices to make their rules. They have rules, but it's because it's not the only thing, or not really the thing they do the most. Giving residency to other citizens outside of Mexican, giving residency is just not the thing they do the most. And I talked to an attorney about this. I've mentioned it on my other lives. So you need to find out what that particular consulate is looking for. They're all different, okay? And when I say they're all different, there might be just one little thing. It's like maybe this one requires this much money. This one wants you to send, for example, my client, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. One of my clients that came last week, she went to, I think, one in New Jersey, and I thought the way they did it was extremely efficient. The guy told her, or she got in touch with someone eventually on the phone, and he told her, I want you to send all the stuff, and then I'll give you an appointment. So they don't even want you, this particular location doesn't want to see anybody unless they know you qualify. That when she sent all the paperwork and all the things, they were like, okay, come in on this day. I think that's the best way to do it, as opposed to preparing all the stuff, having an appointment, getting there, and then getting denied, right? But they're different. They're all different. So the point is right now we're back to doing it the traditional way, which is the way that I did it 7 years ago. And those numbers continue to increase. I will tell you this, if you plan on leaving, it will go up again next year, because it goes up every single year, significantly so. So just, stay in the loop, stay in tune, see if there's anything that changes. Are there any other loopholes that might pop up? But if you are able to qualify, do it, right? If this is something you want to do, take advantage of it. It's one of the countries that you don't have to actually live here a specific amount of time per year. You have the freedom to kind of come and go as of right now, and things are changing, as we already know. But don't give up. Keep trying. Find out what other options there might be for you. Even if you want to visit and travel, come and make sure, okay, is this what I want to do before I go through all the hassle and all the stress? More and more women are coming. I say women because, men ask me, and I'm like, it's on you. You're welcome to come. You're welcome to watch my channel. You're welcome to be here in Casa. This is for everyone, but the majority of my demographic and audience is me. They look like me, okay? And I support that 100%. So the point is that if this is something you want to do, go ahead and continue pursuing it and stay on it. Find out where your consulates are closest to you and see what they require, okay? And keep going for it. I want to talk about our, like I said, sabbatical, which, like I said, most people are looking to pretty much be out, right? Trying to get out. I understand. I get it. Let's see. If you want to know what events I have coming, for example, we have our, let's see, where is it? Here we go. We have our October meetup, and that's happening in October. I think it's the 16th through the 20th or something like this. You can find it on this page that I just dropped in the chat. We still have 2 spaces available in Casa Elm from the VIP ticket standpoint, or you can buy a general admission ticket, which will allow you to join us for the events. You can find what those events are on that link. And right now, I'm still fine-tuning my site, and I'm saying that with my teeth clenched a tad because there are some little things that I'm still kind of trying to work through, so just be patient. If you have any issues trying to do something, just send me a message to info@casaelm.com. I'm going to drop that here too, if there's anything at all. And, I have myself, but also someone who helps me, and we're checking these things all the time, okay? If I don't respond right away, just give me a day or two, okay? Lots going on here in a good way, so I'm always grateful. Okay, Mas. Let's see, I already talked about the October meetup. Okay, and also I'm co-hosting with Ball Girl Will Travel, and Marie. She also lives here. She does a lot of group trips. So she's doing Dia de los Muertos, which is going to be October 29th through November the 3rd. And if, again, you just want to come and hang out with an amazing group of people, women, in this particular group, that is a great opportunity to also be a part of a tradition here, a holiday that's really a cultural event, and it's really beautiful. You can celebrate your loved ones. You can have your face painted. I know some people look at this from, coming from the US, and maybe depending on your background, I don't know, some people aren't as open-minded. But this holiday to me is really special, as I've said in other videos, because you celebrate someone in your life that passed away. And I just feel that's not something I've experienced in the past when I lived in the United States. And I just absolutely love and honor this holiday so much. So if this is something that's of interest to you, there are still some spaces, not here at Casa. We are sold out. But we do have spaces still available. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. We still have spaces available, I believe, if you stay in the hotel that she's booked, and you'll be a part of all the more or less the events that she has planned. So you just have to look at her link to see what those details are, okay? Again, that's October the 29th through the 3rd. Okay, let's see, que más. And I just want to emphasize this one last thing, and then we're going to get into our topic. Yes, you can book a room at Casa Elm. People ask me this all the time because I talk a lot about my programs, relocation, and people are like, can I just do this? Can I just come for and stay at Casa? Yes, CCC, oui, all the things, okay? So this is the link for that. You just go to book a room, and that's where you book a room, put your dates in, and pay your money, and there you go. You come to Casa. And we'll help you if you need logistics with the shuttle, getting from the airport and stuff like that to here. You need assistance with navigating the city, you want to get around, all the things, we're able to provide that. And as I always say, Casa Elm is a soft landing experience and is very different from going it alone, very different from staying at an Airbnb. It is really kind of a home away from home atmosphere. We do a lot of, gatherings and events and things like that. So the point of saying everything is that you can come, you can stay in a room, and you can go off and do your own thing and stay, for whatever length of time is that you would like, okay? So that's the link for it, because it seems that sometimes people are not sure if I'm doing only group things. We're not. And I will say this too, we also do customized group things. I've done for several different people, someone celebrating a birthday, other ladies that came recently, a group of women that came recently celebrating their birthdays together and their friendship and all the things, so we could put something together. I'm actually going to have a conversation with someone I got some guys I'm like super excited that are interested in doing a retreat, potentially doing a retreat here for them. And I think that that would be amazing. Again, I'm all about healing and energy and all the things, right? But we're mostly women and I'm cool with that. However, if Black men want to get together and heal, let's do it, right? So thank you, Iona. I appreciate you. All right, so let's get into my topic tonight is what are the nuanced things about living abroad or living in Mexico for me? I'm talking about Mexico. Um, you know, there are a lot of really cool things about it, right? I think one of the if I have to think back, like my emotional and feelings and responses to, things around me when I first came here were, the old city feel, the new emerged into the old, the art, the colors, and it felt very European. And I always liked the idea of potentially living in a foreign country and all the new things that were not familiar to me, right? Like what didn't I know yet? Where haven't I been yet? What I've seen, but what did I think it was? And now I'm here and it's completely not that and something else. So all of this comes with that initial kind of thing, right? We're excited and we're like, kind of this Bambi impression of skipping through the forest and everything feels amazing in general, right? Doesn't mean you don't have your challenges, but you're ready for it. But then things start to creep in, right? And then it depends on what is your situation. I think as individuals come from a retirement standpoint, at times it may feel a little easier, right? And I'm saying that because, now you're you don't have to necessarily maneuver the things in the world of San Miguel, let's say, or Mexico, as much as maybe someone like myself or someone who has a child like myself, but someone who came with a family and all the things or is trying to start a business. So again, I always say it depends on what your situation is, but there are like things that kind of happen that kind of may come up. And I want to talk about some of those things. And also, I always ask you all to come with a bucket of patience because it's not going to be like what we know. It's not familiar all the time. And if you don't speak the language, it can be difficult. We're learning, we're continuously learning, we're continuously figuring stuff out. And sometimes it can be very exhausting. And, I encourage people to give yourself grace, breathe in, breathe out, and take it easy. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples. So last week, I had my ladies who came for the full week relocation tour, and it was a beautiful week. We had all the things set up for them as we normally do, and each of them coming into Querétaro Airport, there was something, right? And I literally remember saying, what's happening this week? Like, let's take a step back and let's assess, what are these, little challenges that are coming up and why, right? And to me, this is kind of one of those nuanced type things where you're like, I did everything right. And, I got to Mexico and then I got to the customs, and why did they mark me, inadvertently as a male, but I'm a female. I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about my client. So then now off you go to immigration for your appointment, and there's a problem, right? And it's a simple thing that seems like, why was this not, why wasn't this done correctly the first time? Who knows, human error, entry errors, and whatever. But what happens in this case? Now this person is thrown off, right? Because, this is not that they didn't handle it well. I'm just giving you examples of things that happen that really and truly can be like, and so it threw her off because she was supposed to leave on a certain day. She was supposed to travel back, she had to get back to go to work. And it's like, oh, I remember I said, look, this is an intro, and I'm not trying to trivialize, but here's the intro to Mexico, because things are just not always as efficient as it is in the US and maybe as what we're used to. Not that everything there is efficient, but we're used to faster conveniences and like, oh, that's a simple fix, like just go on the computer. We don't really know like the chain of command on why and who has to do this. Like, did it happen in the US and whatever? So, and then on top of all of that, there was a holiday on Thursday and a holiday on Monday. So there goes leaving on Friday. There goes that appointment that I had, and now I have to stay longer. And I loved how she just embraced this with, okay, well, I brought my work computer just in case. And she was out on the town, meeting people, hanging out, doing the thing, all the things. I was like, there were some evenings or days I didn't even see her. I was just like, go ahead, girl, do your thing, And so that's kind of the approach you sometimes need to have when things are not going according to plan, as opposed to letting it make you crazy and driving you nuts. You have to be like, you know what? I have faith that this is going to be fine, and talking to my guests, this is something I do as I talk to you all, is to keep the balance, like I want you to not quit, keep pushing through, don't give up, you're here, like you're 2/3 of the way through, right? This is a hiccup. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, it seems like, just a lack of, attention to a detail and all the things. Okay, so that's one scenario. So the other person came in, and these are things that you need to be aware of, right? And the other individual came in, and she had her approval, all the things, and she passed her information on to the agent, and like, I'm approved for my temporary. And the person stamped tourist. And then she looked at it, she's like, she went back, and then they stamped resident. And so in the system, she's entered as a tourist and a resident. Of course, that's a problem. That's a big problem, and this happened to another client of mine last year. So my point is I'm going to say stupid stuff like this happens. So I'm not even going to be nice about it. Stupid things like this happen, okay? And those stupid things sometimes can really make you feel like, this is some bullshit, right? And what do I do? And now it's like this trip you had planned where, this is my budget and this is what I'm doing and this is all the work that I put in and I did all the right things. Now it's okay, I don't know what's going to happen. How long is it going to take to fix this? Trying to get like what's the way to fix it and all the things. So I'm saying this to you all because it's very common here for little stupid things to come up. And I'm not saying it in terms of the people. I'm just saying like a lot of these things happen, and sometimes it just throws like a monkey wrench into the mix, and it can be very overwhelming and very frustrating. And you might feel like, what, forget it. Like I'm just, I'm not going to deal with this. I'm really enjoying that each of my guests are like embracing it and like, okay, no, I paid a lot of money to get here. I did a lot of things to be a part of not just a tour, but to make this happen for myself. And so be tenacious about it is what I'm saying. These are like the things that kind of happen, and when they do, it's like, oh my God, but do not give up. Okay, so I'm here to say that sometimes these things are just like really frustrating, and we just try to figure them out. I remember last year, the facilitator my person was working with, they basically, I don't know if it was immigration that advised this, I don't remember the details, but they told them to go back to the airport, and then they got in this whole like big discussion about whose fault it was, and it's like, okay, nobody's fault. Like, just fix it. Like, how do we fix it? Let's not talk about the fault or the problem. Let's, like, what's the solution? Is there a solution? What is it? So that's where it is, right? We're trying to resolve that as well. But I'm just giving this as an example so that you know that things happen that are not always a bowl of cherries, and don't let it throw you off your rocker. Hi, butterfly effect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, please do. Always love on yourself first. If you don't love on yourself, we don't love on you. Is it real love if someone else is loving on you and you didn't love on yourself? You know, absolutely. I'm here to encourage as much as possible, give inspiration. I was talking to a really long time ago friend of mine who's visiting, and I was explaining to him that I'm at this point in my life that I realize that my purpose is what I'm good at is continuing to build community, bring people together. It's what I love doing, and through that I'm able to earn a living, but it's not like making the cash in hand is not just a priority. I'm not just like, oh, as much as I can. No, I really, 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 really want people to come together. I want them to feel loved on. Those are my exact words. I want them to feel loved on. I want them to feel encouraged. It doesn't mean like every experience with every person is the same. It just means that those are always my intentions. My heart is always in the right place. I want people to experience the life that I get to live and the joy and excitement and the love that I feel, and I want to talk about another nuance and something that came up this week. And I'll get into that in a moment. But yes, thank you so much. I appreciate your comment. Okay, so another thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm going to tread lightly on it because I know people watch my channel, and I'm not here to be like, but I want to say that just because you move away from wherever you are, and if you've experienced racism in your country, that it does not follow in some shape or form in the new country. I've talked about this before because I experienced it from someone who was from the US. And this week, it kind of came up again, but it was in a group of kid situation. But what I want to say is, and I'm not going to get into all the details, but I want to say that this is another nuance. Like, these things exist, and one of the statements that I made is that I didn't move abroad to escape. You can't outrun life. You can't outrun everything, right? Things are going to be around us. So, for example, let's say I moved to Jamaica, right? Yes, I'm surrounded by people who look like me, probably 95%, right? But I'm going to have challenges of other things that I don't like, right? I don't like bad service. Trust me. I love my coconuts, but the service is not great. Period. End of story. For those who know, you know. And I talk about this sometimes with friends and whomever, right? It's a part of the culture, unfortunately. And I feel that leaving the United States, and I'm going to talk about the United States, it's a part of the culture where things come up, where sometimes people say things, they think they're funny, they think they're being funny. Kids, right, who may be learning things at home or seeing things, especially with the World Wide Web, www, all the things that are out there. We cannot control everything that they're looking at and seeing and doing. Now, you can put blocks and things on their phones, but sometimes at this point in age for my child, 13, 12, 14 years old, they're in their WhatsApp, they create their own WhatsApp groups, every now and then it's like, okay, what are they talking about? I've seen some things in there, I'm like, oh, no. And then I'm like, block, block, block. You get out of that's not for you. And that's not the kind of conversations that we're going to be having, But I want to say that it still exists. It's around us, and sometimes that comes from the north down to the south. And unfortunately, it sometimes, trickles out into our community and our lives, or an experience that comes up. And, it's kind of one of those things where, oh, I got to address this. And on the positive side, like the parents of whatever happened, they were super supportive. And I have to just give the kudos. There was no kind of like, oh, well, not my kid. Da, da, da. They like, it was kind of this instant kind of rush of, oh, we're not having that. We're going to fix this. And so that nuance of, oh, this is something that I really didn't expect my child to encounter or experience. On the other side of it, it's like, oh, it was kind of handled and corrected. Now, where do we go from here, right? Do we hold the grudge, or do we try to come together and train and teach those who want their kids to be trained and taught about why some of these things are not, inclusive, and they don't make people feel good, or whatever the case might be. And I know we talk about stuff, and I know that I represent a Black demographic. For anyone who's non-Black watching this, I understand. So I typically am trying to be careful about how I say and handle things. At the same time, this is my skin, this is my color, and this is what I represent. And my space has been this haven for people who want to get away from those things and not feel a certain way about moving to another place and experiencing those types of things. So when it does, and if it does come up for you at any point, look at the scenario. In this case, I was like, oh, these are children. It's not okay. We're definitely going to handle it. We're definitely going to talk about it. But what's the response of the grown-up, to me, was more important, and how is it going to be handled? And so that's like kind of a nuance that I never had to really deal with in terms of in the younger demographic, age bracket. And it came up, and I was just like, oh, that's not okay. That's not okay for someone to, use certain phrases or whatever the case might be. It's just not okay, and I think because I grew up in the US, I know what all of those types of things represent, right? Because we learned about Black history and we've experienced certain treatment and things like that. But here, I don't want that veil of, oh, well, they said this, and then it's like we moved on from it. Heck no, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, right? And for those who watched last week, I'm chill and calm until I'm not. I'm very fiery if I feel like, because I believe in fair is fair, and I believe in speaking up for yourself and all the things, right? Speaking up for those who can't speak up for themselves. I really strongly believe in these things. So the point is that I felt encouraged because the community of moms kind of really came together. We want to put like a sensitivity training together and all the things, and it just kind of like in a few days it was like, and I have to say that I appreciate that so much. There wasn't the feeling of division, like one heard about it and the next one was like, oh no, and it just kind of came together like this, and this is all skin tones. And so I really appreciated that a lot. But the point is that it's still there, right? And the experiences unfortunately come from the north. I was going to say the north, because of the climate of what's happening in the world and the US and all the things right now. Of course, it's like trickling out to everyone, right? I'm not in the United States and I don't follow the news in the United States, but what I do know is shit's crazy, right? And so I think that it's just this free for all, and unfortunately, it trickles down. We can't protect our kids from not seeing a lot of things that people sometimes think are funny, and they're not. they're hurtful, they can be intimidating. And not only that, it's like even the aftermath of something is not okay, right? It's like, well, how do you feel now because your parents were like, oh, we ain't having this? Like kids aren't gonna necessarily always be like, oh crap, like I got the lesson. Sometimes they might be a little mean, right? They might be like, oh, I got in trouble. Oh, I'm gonna say whatever. So every day checking in with my child and, the other children, like, what's up? Everything good? Do I need to show up again? Because I will. Like I have no qualms about that. Have a voice, say what you need to say, and let's keep it moving. Because I have experienced some racism here, and it wasn't from a Mexican person, straight up. It wasn't. It was someone that came from the United States. And I told you all this story. If you haven't heard it, you can go back and find that video. But, she tried to act like she owned the street. And I was like, you live over there in that number. I live over here in this number. Don't come for me. All right, moving on. Your identity may shift, right? Especially for a person of color, basically. Your identity may change. You might become someone who is like, I am this title back in the US, I am an attorney, I am a doctor, I am whatever, I am a secretary or business owner over there. And then you get here and it's like, where do I fit in, right? It seems initially like super exciting, even if it was, you did all these things, but now you're retired. And now you're like, what is my purpose here, right? That's kind of a thing where people do all the work. And then, like I said last week, you get into your space and it's like, oh crap, what am I doing here? Or what's my next step? What's my next move? Sometimes you may feel like, oh, did I make a mistake? Because you might feel like a fish out of water. That's why I always try to encourage people, please do your best to learn the language, because there are potential friends and people that will be around you, that will support you, that will be a part of your life in some capacity, even if it's someone who doesn't speak perfect English and you don't speak perfect Spanish. I'm telling you, the Mexican people especially, they really appreciate the effort. Like I said last week, like Sandra has gone to a space where she's comfortable correcting my Spanish, and I'm fine with that. Even my son corrects me. For those who don't know, he is teaching conversational Spanish. I announced that 2 weeks ago, I believe. But it's like, all the time when I think I'm saying something correct, but she understands what I'm saying. And then, like the other day, my son was like, it's not that, it's Checo. And I've been saying Checando, and he's like, it's not that, that's not correct, And then, like, Sandra looks at me like, I understand what you mean. And I'm like, I don't want you to understand, I want you to correct me, right? And so sometimes they may not correct you, they may understand you because they don't want to offend you. But the point is the communication exists, right? It's just interesting because the more you just talk and say things is the more you will find yourself understanding more. And when they correct you, because you give them that permission to correct you, whomever that person is or people are in your line of communication, let them correct you without any, like, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad if you sound like a chopped up sentence. We don't really know, right? Because we think we're saying all the right things. But think of a foreigner speaking to us in English and sometimes how crazy it sounds. I'm pretty sure we sound this way, but they still try, and that's what's appreciated. And so all of these things kind of like make you feel like, a part of things as opposed to maybe feeling excluded. It's really tough to move to a place. Let's say you move somewhere that does not have as much community as here, or you move to a much, much bigger city. You can sometimes feel a little bit lost in that space, right? And that's okay. You know what you need and what you want. If you feel like you need to be more anonymous, or you live in this other area because you want to pay less for rent and cost of things, 100% understandable, right? Things cost way less in many other places in Mexico than they do in San Miguel. It's still way less expensive here than it is in many, many parts of the United States, okay? I can vouch for that. You just need to know where to go and shop. But maybe you're on a really strict shoestring budget, you got into the country already, or you plan on, you already have your card or whatever it is you might have going on, or you have the funds, but you don't want to necessarily spend a lot either, right? Let's say you qualified, but now you're retired and you need to have this stretch for you. There's so many scenarios. So therefore, you want to make sure wherever you are, wherever you go, assess how do I, move through the society? How do I move through? How do I make it through the space and feel good about it, right? So that's a nuance that I think is very important, because if you don't feel like you're connecting to other people, because to me, that's super, super crucial for the success. Unless you're just a hermit, okay? And most of us are not full hermit, right? I am maybe 40%, 50% hermit, and like I could live in a town and it would be okay. It would be all right for me to be in that town, and I didn't necessarily have like this huge community thing, because guess what? I'll probably create it. I'll bring you guys over there. So I do believe in, build it and they'll come. I really believe in that, especially when you show the beauty of the place, but you have to immerse yourself into that as well, right? So what else? New language, new life. It's not a vacation. I say this often, it is not a vacation. You have to really consider what does this look like? For example, there's a town called Petscora. It's lovely there. I don't know much about it, but it does have a grand appeal. It's not super far from here. I also really like the town of Morelia, and that Morelia town and city, and I love Zacatecas. Okay, I just have to say that, the city of Zacatecas. I was so impressed. They have a cable car going across the city. Look it up, it's so beautiful. And it's so European looking and all Mexican. Like, I don't think I saw more than us and maybe 2 or 3 other foreigners. I thought my Spanish was so good and great. They did not understand me. And I was just like, but it would push me to be outside of my comfort zone. So if that's something that you want in your abroad experience, is to be challenged, then you need to kind of, learn the language, because you want to, if you got to just know yourself. I say this all the time, know thyself, know thyself, know thyself, right? And knowing thyself is, all right, if I go to a complete foreign land, place, city, I don't really speak the language, maybe I need to go somewhere where it's easier to immerse myself, learn the language, and then maybe I'm going to move to another place, right? So these are the things that I think you have to think about. It's kind of like, all right, what's the challenge that I might encounter? What are the things? Last week I talked at the end because someone asked me about my relationship. That's a big thing. It's not just me. I've seen plenty of couples before I got my divorce and separation and divorce that didn't work out. And you have to be like, you know what? How do I make it here? Can I make it here? You have to think about these things. You have to figure out like what works for you, what doesn't work for you, because otherwise sometimes you might feel like it's just eating you up, spitting you back out. Can I afford to be here because it's a cash society? Yes, my rent is less, but there's a lot happening in San Miguel, right? As a city goes, there's a lot going on, and a lot of people like to go out and do. Sometimes you really got to be careful and mindful and say, you know what, I can't do these 10, 50 million things, right? I may need to do a little side hustle, a little side work or whatever, because I didn't realize that this was going to cost me as much. And I feel that we all bring some sort of talent that will potentially allow us to earn income. Now I'm gonna say this, I love me some Mona Lisa, and she's done my hair and all the things. But I had a client that stayed with me quite a few months ago here at Casa, and I completely forgot that she told me she was a stylist. And she came, she did her papers and all the things. She was telling me she was taking a 6 month sabbatical, and she's back. And so I saw her a few weeks ago at a Chef Jackie event, and it somehow this came up about hair, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get back on the bandwagon," and I was like, "Oh, you're a stylist?" She's like, "Yeah, She was very calm and cool about it. This was at our brunch actually not Chef Jackie. It was at our brunch, but I saw her at Chef Jackie's as well, and she's like telling me about the hair, and I was like, finally, meaning someone who can do some of the things that I want, and working with what's here. My point is that I've seen so many talented women, mostly women, come and just create and do, right? And so even with the kind of like, oh my gosh, this costs a lot, or, I only have this much of a budget, or I only want to spend this much, like, what are the things I can do? I've seen people become like the, house pet sitter, not working for free, literally charging because their reputation is up here and they're excellent. Artists coming and creating and doing their thing because their talent is up here. There's so many things. Like if you love baking, maybe that's your thing. I'm talking to a current client who's amazing with plants and creating like baskets, any type. And she sent me like a few pictures. She did one for me at Christmas. And it's just like they're beautiful. And that's not something we see here. It may not seem like a big deal to you, but in the United States, we can go into a Costco's at Christmas and just buy a fabulous gift basket, or a grocery store, and they're already pre-made. You don't see that here. It's not here. At Christmas time, sometimes Costco's has them, but there's events and things celebrated all throughout the year. She sent me a picture of one that had like herbs in it. And I was like, that is cool. Like, I like that. You know what I'm saying? So there's just a lot of opportunities to be super creative in this regard. And it doesn't have to be just like you're stuck, in place. Even though it's you're not on vacation now and you're trying to immerse, find the things that bring you joy, or things that you maybe didn't realize brought you joy, whatever it is, teaching. Yeah, you may not earn what US dollars necessarily all the time, but you can start with something somewhere somehow and kind of build yourself into a space where you have clients and people that you're being able to earn from. And sometimes that's difficult to come outside of that structure of working if that's not been your thing, but have faith in yourself. You can do it. Culture shock. Let's talk about it. I feel like we experience it on both sides, especially for me. When I go back to the US, I'm kind of like, when I went to Jamaica, I was like, I love, love, love my trip, but people are different. It's like a whole different thing going to the US. It's like a re-intro, right? And then coming here, same. There's like that whole, again, that nuance of, okay, I'm used to this in my days and my routine, because I've been here for 7 years. I know how to get around. I know how to take care of stuff. And like, this is a little thing, but when I went back to the US and it was 8 degrees in Connecticut and I had to pump my own gas, I was like, I don't even remember how to do this. Cause, and it's not me being snooty. I literally was in the car staring at the thing for a moment. And I was like, okay, stick the card in. What do they ask me again? They want a zip code. And, and it was cold. It was so cold. And I just kept thinking, I cannot be out there holding this thing and whatever. Where's the lever again? And all the things. Because living here for 7 years, like, I get my gas pump into the car. and I don't have to worry. I give them a little tip. I don't look at the machine anymore. I just tell them how much I want. Okay, so they're like little things. And going back into the US, it's great because I'm always like, oh, I can just speak English and everybody understands me. Grand. I miss that, just things. And then in reverse, like coming here, I think after, again, you get settled, there's just this whole kind of like, you know, all right, how do I make it from point A to B? How do I pay for my electric bills? Do I just keep pulling pesos? How can I get this money back in fees? All the things, right? It's a different country, right? You're going to a whole other country with a whole other set of rules, whole different set of holidays. Why the heck are all these fireworks going off? Why are there chickens, clucking and roosters in the background making all this noise? How come I hear a donkey down the street? How come there are horses walking by? It's like, that's culture shock. There's the culture of the culture shock, which is culturally, people are used to loud Mexican bands playing on a Saturday night. And I'm just always like, okay, can't beat them, join them. If you're in your house and you hear this, like, don't get angry, don't get mad, don't get upset. These little things can literally add up and drive people nuts. I see people commenting on Facebook a lot, especially in the groups on Facebook, and they're like, how come there's fireworks going off at 3 o'clock in the morning and 4? Is there a noise ordinance? That is like, to me, it feels and sounds super disrespectful for you to come from your country and complain about the traditions and how things happen here. Now, there's a way to ask the question, but there's also a way that you shouldn't ask. And that happens a lot, right? People are really complaining about it, the way they say things. It's not friendly. It's not nice. And most of the times you'll see people just laughing at them like, welcome to Mexico, right? So come with this knowing that these are some of the things, because it is a culture shock. It is different, If you chose to live in Central, for example, I really like to live in Central. I love walking the streets. Just know that that's fantastic, probably 70% of the time. There's going to be 30% or maybe even 40% of the time where you're going to hate living there if you are noise averse. You're going to be like, oh, this is crazy. Yes, there will be fireworks that sound like bombs going off, and they will celebrate the heck out of whatever, right? There will be times when there's so much traffic you can't move. Streets are blocked off, the pedestrian ways are always blocked, but there's going to be more than that. Trying to get from point A to B that normally takes you maybe 5 minutes by car, it's going to take you 30. Things like this, it's an older city, at least I'm talking about San Miguel, where getting in and out of the city sometimes when it's like this is a pain. That's why I stay home. I mind my business, and if I need to see some parade, I just wait for somebody to post a video on Facebook or a San Miguel page, and I just watch it there. Now, do you miss stuff? No, don't. Go see it, go live it, go experience it. But when you become an OG like myself, and I consider myself an OG, 7 years here, it's kind of like, okay, beautiful, lovely, but no, I don't want to be hassled with that because I'm over it. But it's something that, it's not necessarily a culture shock, but it's one of those things where I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not driving in. There are times even on a non-traditional holiday night, nothing going on, where I'm like, let's catch a cab because I don't even want to drive in to park. And it's not that far. It's really not, it's not like going to Mexico City or Querétaro or some Guadalajara or somewhere, Playa even. I'm just like, if I'm going to be out and getting into too much traffic getting into town, I don't want to do it, because it reminds me of living in Florida, which I'm done. That's why I won't move to a bigger city. I'm not living in Querétaro. I'm not gonna live in Mexico City. I love it. They're beautiful. I'll visit. However, I am not living in a place where I have to fight with traffic. I'm just not gonna do it. I'm not interested. Like, I love the ease of moving around this city. And as I said, if I want to go to Central and there's a whole bunch of things going on, the taxis know how to get me around. I'll pay you that $7, $10, whatever it is now, and you can take me to wherever, drop me off at the door, close enough, and that's all I'm gonna do. I'm not driving my car. So let's see, Michelle, where's the donkey parking? Yep, that's it, the sounds of Mexico. Right, that's true. Yep, they thought they owned a beach and got a swift correction. Correct. You know, the beaches in Mexico, I think for the most part, um, you know, everyone's allowed to go to them. So, you know, it's just one of those other things that I feel where, you know, we have to kind of really be open, and don't let these things kind of like make us crazy, right? It's something that we don't always experience. On that topic, yeah, same, Michelle. And I've already said you can redesign your life, you know, but you'll still bring a lot of who you are with you. So give yourself the grace. I always say that. Give yourself the grace. Give yourself the grace. And that grace is, all right, I'm going to really be stretching myself out. I'm going to stretch who I am. I'm going to stretch the patience that I might have because you're no longer familiar with anything around you. This is all new. It's not like moving to another state. I remember when I moved from Connecticut to Texas, and you know, I always wanted kind of a more city vibe or whatever. So we moved to Dallas, and at the time, for me, Dallas was like a fake city. I was like, initially I thought, oh, this is cool. It's bigger than, you know, Connecticut. No, I did not love it. I was just like, super country here culturally and all the things. And I had to stretch myself again. I had to stretch myself into appreciating what it had to offer, right? Knowing that one day soon I was going to leave, right? It took 4 years, but I was like, this is not for me. But I had to stretch myself into this other thing, and it was very different. I was used to the Northeast. I was used to, you know, 2 hours to New York, 2 hours north to Boston, a couple hours to get to, you know, not couple, but a couple hours to get to like Maine, New Rhode Island, and all the different places. Like I could jump in a car and easily get to all these different places, different states. And in Texas, it was like, you're driving forever and you're still in the same state, or you're just moving to another state that's very similar to the state you're trying to get away from. And so it was a learning experience. You know, for me, it was, okay, this is not for me. But I still learned to adapt to the situation to make it the best that I needed to for that time frame of my life. And I said, okay, the next thing that or place that I choose is going to be somewhere I really, really am curious about living, and that was moving to South Florida. Exhausted that as well, but I enjoyed it because I chose it. I had fun while I was there. Don't need to go back, but I enjoyed it. Right, it was closer to the city vibe, and just, you know, more my style. So that's what I have for you all tonight. Please don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to share, subscribe if you haven't, and I will be back next week, Wednesday, for sure. I will definitely, if you have not already gone to casaelm.com and subscribe to my newsletter, you can get a free download as well. Please do that, because we announce what we're going to talk about, things that are coming, and all the things. And just, you know, I'm trying to share more of my personal stories and journeys and things like that, and just kind of keep it real, right? Trying to keep this real. For those who follow me online, you can see and Tracy, a couple of other ladies, you can see that we have gatherings. We did our first Women's Talk, Black Blossom Women's Talk here at Casa Elm on this past Saturday night. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful. We really had to, I'll answer your question. Hi, Pamela. In a moment, I really had to kind of sit back, and it was just lovely. You know, we had this concept of giving women space to talk about women issues, emotional women's issues, health, whatever it was, sexuality, you know, how we were raised, different things. And we were there for hours. And it was really nice because everyone brought something, and we just gathered, and our circle kind of got bigger and bigger as the night went on, and then finally everyone arrived. And, you know, we were sharing space, and it was sacred, and really enjoyed it. So, you know, these are like the things that I feel for me, living here has just kind of come full circle. I've lived in many places, and I actually this is the first time that I really feel like, you know, this amazing sisterhood and just community of support and health. You know, again, nothing's perfect. You know, sometimes there are things that we encounter. It's a small town, you know people, you hear about stuff, and it's kind of doesn't always feel good, but it's always kind of one of those scenarios where you live, you learn, or live, learn, and then there's change. And that's kind of the, you know, path that I'm always walking on. Michelle, Pamela, yes, Micah's classes are coming along. Thank you. Yes, I'll drop his website here if you're interested. Micah Brooks, and it's also on my my newsletter that I'm sending out, just at the bottom. Thank you. Yes, Michelle got a class from him. So he's fine-tuning his approach. Yeah, he speaks well. So if you're interested in doing conversational Spanish with him, please do sign up. All right, ladies, and if there are any gents out there as well, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and I will see you all again next week. All right, feel free to drop anything in our info at Casa Elm. If there's something you want to hear about, talk about, you know, I'm kind of talking about a lot of the emotional things, the psychology behind being here, the challenges, trying to keep it as real as possible. And, you know, so people don't think everything is perfect and wonderful and cherry all the time. No, there's always something that's going to be challenging, but it's still a good life. Okay? Have a great rest of your week. Be safe. Enjoy your weekend. And I will chat to you soon.